we move on now to what we call the building blocks of your pitch. And these building blocks are, the ones which trigger your thoughts into crystallizing your research idea. And we begin with the idea. Okay, that is the first part of it. What is it that you want to pursue? What theoretical tensions exist that you would like to pursue? In any research, we normally have a theory guiding your study. And the theory tries to answer the question, why? Why is it that you want to study that? Okay? What triggered you to pursue that? And has the theory been conclusive? Has it been consistent? Have we been able to get similar conclusions if we apply that theory in pursuing that which you want to pursue? Or are there cases where we found conflicting results? Okay, some studies taking a given direction, other studies taking a different direction. Might you want to come in and try to see if you can resolve that tension? That is the idea. The idea can also be triggered by your own interaction with the phenomenon. You interact with the phenomenon for an extended period of time and you realize, wow, this has never been examined. For example, we have studies that have focused on small and medium-sized enterprises. This matter of financing them. But you realize the financing that has always been talked about is the conventional finance. But you know that in this space we also have Islamic finance. So you may want to ask yourself, do we see any difference between, let's say for example, small and medium-sized enterprises financed by the conventional finance and small and medium-sized enterprises financed by the Islamic finance? Are there any differences? Okay, does getting financed using Islamic finance bring any difference? All right, is there something we may want to tell these SMEs, we call them, when it comes to financing and the mode or the structure of financing? You may want to pursue that kind of idea. How did it arise? Through your own interaction with the phenomenon. So that is the first part of the building blocks of your research. The next and very important are data. Now, data is very critical to research because as you execute empirical research, at some point in time, you will collect data, whether qualitatively or quantitatively. You will need data. And the first thing you have to ask yourself is, even when you're formulating your research, are data available? Will you be able to get data? Is there a point where you will go and get data on that which you want to examine? What is your unit of analysis? Who will give you that data? Who will respond to your tools? Who will be there to answer the questions that you're asking? Your unit of analysis. Is it an individual person? Is it an organization that will be giving you that data? Is it at country level? Is it at a global level? Is it at county level, like in the case of Kenya and the likes? So that is the data. And this data, what structure will it take? Is it panel data? Is it going to be time series data? Will it be longitudinal data? Or is it cross-sectional data? Okay, so you have to ask yourself these questions as you think through your research. In fact, the way I look at research is, when you're thinking of your research, you have to look into the future. Do not, keep being in the past. No, you have to think proactively so that as you carry out the study, it's very clear where you will get your data and the form it will take, how reliable that data will be, okay? And the form, of course, is it primary, secondary data? Is it going to be numerical? Is it going to be qualitative? And the likes. That is the next building block. Very important, data. The next building block are the tools that you're going to employ now to work on the data. You've already gathered your data. There is a form it takes, either qualitative or quantitative. The question is, what tools are you going to employ to analyze this data? And it has to be a very systematic approach. You have to begin with the basic level of analysis, descriptive statistics or descriptives, if your data lends itself to that, and then move on to more analytical approaches. Maybe if you have to use regression, And even if you are to use regression, what type of regression given your data? Is it probit regression? Is it logit? Are you going to carry out ordinal logistic regression? Are you going to carry out multinomial logistic? Are you going to carry out an ordinary least squares? Are you going to carry out a panel least squares kind of regression? Are you going to carry out the two-step generalized method of moments? Are you going to carry out the autoregressive lag kind of model? You have to really think what tools. And one thing that comes to mind is you have to kind of self-educate yourself on these tools. You have to kind of look out YouTube, different forums, seminars, workshops, conferences, where these tools have been talked about, and read books, okay? Even publications, all right? You read, the kind of approaches that have been used. And of course, the software that you're going to use. Are you going to use, let's say for example, if you're handling quantitative data, are you going to use Stata? Are you going to use R? Are you going to use Python? All right? Are you going to use techniques like GBoost? All right? Are you going to use SAS? Are you going to use SPSS? Okay? Which tool are you going to use? Are you going to use NVivo for those who are doing qualitative research? So you have to think of the tool that applies given the data. And if you're not very familiar with the tool, as a researcher, it's always good to have some bit of basic knowledge when it comes to using the tools. So equip yourself, educate yourself on how to work with the tools, even if at some point you might seek expert advice on how to go about the data analysis. My advice is it's always good to know what that tool is going to do when your data are subjected to that tool. So please educate yourself, and there are many resources out there that will help you.